guys, I have another chapter to read for you. When we left off, they had finally convinced Bruno's dad, Mr. Jenkins, that Bruno was in fact a mouse. And they tricked Mr. Jenkins into having a conversation with the Grand Witch. So, this chapter is called Triumph. Mr. Jenkins had not gone more than a few paces toward the Grand High Witch's table when a piercing scream rose high above the other noises in the room. At the same moment, I saw the Grand High Witch go shooting up into the air. Now she was standing on her chair, still screaming. Now she was at the tabletop, waving her arms. "What on earth's happening, Grandmama?" "Wait," my grandmother said. "Keep quiet and watch." Suddenly, all the other witches, more than 80 of them, were beginning to scream and jump up out of their seats as though spikes were being stuck into their bottoms. Some were standing on the chairs, some were on the tables. All of them were wiggling about, waving their arms in the most extraordinary manner. Then all at once they became quiet. Then they stiffened. Every single witch stood there stiff, silent, and as a corpse. The whole room became deathly still. "They're shrinking, Grandmama," I said. "They're shrinking just like I did." "I know they are," my grandmother said. "It's the mouse maker," I cried. "Look, some of them are growing fur on their faces. Why is it working so quickly, Grandmama?" "I'll tell you why," my grandmother said. "Because all of them have massive overdose just like you. It's thrown the alarm clock out of whack." Everyone in the dining room was standing up now to get a better view. People were moving closer. They were beginning to crowd around the... Here's all the witches becoming mice. 2 long tables. My grandmother lifted Bruno and met me up so we wouldn't miss any fun. In her excitement, she jumped up out of the chair so that she could see over the heads of the crowds. In another few seconds, all the witches completely disappeared, and the tops of 2 long tables were swimming with small brown mice. All over the dining room, women were screaming, and strong men were turning white in the face, shouting, "It's crazy! This can't happen! Let's get the heck out of here! Quick!" Waiters were attacking the mice with chairs, wine bottles, anything else they could come in hand. They saw a chief chef in a tall white hat rushing out of the kitchen, brandishing a frying pan, and another one just behind him was wielding a carving knife above his head. Everyone was yelling, "Mice, mice, mice," just to get rid of the mice, only the children in the room really enjoying it. They were all seemed to be instinctively that something good was going on right there in front of them, and that they were clapping and cheering and laughing like mad. "It's time to go," my grandmother said. "Our work is done." She got down from her chair and picked up the handbag and slung it over her arm. So there are the witches, slowly, and now they're mice. She had me in her right hand and Bruno in her left. "Bruno," she said, "it's time to come to restore you to the famous bosom of your family." "My mom's not very crazy about mice," Bruno said. "So I noticed," my grandmother said. "She'll just have to get used to you, won't she?" It was not difficult to find Mr. and Mrs. Jenkins, who could hear Mrs. Jenkins' shrill voice all over the room. "Herbert," she was screaming, "Herbert, get me out of here. There's mice everywhere. They'll go up my skirt." She had her arms high above around her husband, and from where I was, she seemed to be swinging them from his neck. My grandmother advanced upon them and thrust Bruno and Mr. Jenkins' hand. "Here's your little boy," she said. "He needs to go on a diet." "Hi, Dad," Bruno said. "Hi, Mom." Mrs. Jenkins screamed even louder. My grandmother, with me in one hand, turned and marched out of the room. She went straight across the hotel lobby, out through the front entrance into the open air. Outside it was lovely warm evening, and I could hear the waves breaking the beach just across the road of the hotel. "Is there a taxi here?" My grandmother said to the doorman in the green uniform. "Certainly, madam," he said. He put 2 fingers in his mouth and blew a long, shrill whistle and watched him with envy. Few weeks I hadn't been trying to whistle like that, but I hadn't succeeded once. Now I never would. The taxi came, and the driver, an oldish man, and a thick black drooping mustache. The mustache hung over the mouth of his roots of some plant. There, where to, madam? He asked. Suddenly she caught sight of the little mouse nestled in my grandmother's hand. Blimey, he said. What's that? It's my grandson, my grandmother said. Drive us to the station, please. I always liked mice, the old taxi driver said. I used to keep hundreds of them when I was a boy. Mice is the fastest breeders in the world. Did you know that, ma'am? See, so if he's your grandson, then I reckon you're having a few great-grandsons to go with them in a couple of weeks' time. Drive us to the station, please, my grandmother said, looking prim. Yes, ma'am, he said, right away. My grandmother got into the back of the taxi, sat down, put me on her lap. Are we going home, I asked her. Yes, she answered, back to Norway. Hooray, I cried. Oh, hooray, hooray. I thought you'd like that, she said. But what about our luggage? Who cares about luggage, she said. The taxi was driving through the streets of Bournemouth, and that was the time of day when the pavements were crowded and the holiday makers were all wandering about aimlessly, nothing to do. How are you feeling, my darling? My grandmother said. Fine, I said. Quite marvelous. She began stroking the fur of the back of my neck with her one finger. We have accomplished great feats today, she said. It's been terrific, I said. Absolutely terrific. That's the end of the chapter. Tomorrow we read The Heart of a Mouse. I hope you're having a good day. I hope you get outside and enjoy the sunshine. I'm just about to do that myself. Mwah!